Hi, everybody. My name is Don Perlis. I'm going to be the guest host tonight on Corinne's Picks. It's my great pleasure to introduce tonight Anthony Santuoso, a dear friend, an artist who I admire, and a person who's got a lot to say, and we're going to show you his paintings. And I'd like to have arrange a context for the entire thing. And to do that, if you permit me, I'd like to read from a statement that I wrote, which will keep me from misquoting myself, which will set the context for this interview, which I believe is going to be essential. Anyone with an interest in art and a minimal amount of foresight can see the avant-garde, including abstraction, montage, cubist structure, expressionism, minimalism, and all the rest of it. Actually, what the first generation of great modernist painters at the produced at the onset of the 20th century. We can all see that it's become ubiquitous, it's become the status quo, and ultimately it's finally become banal. And this was evident 40 or 50 years ago when Anthony and I were both young and beginning to become painters. There was an inevitable revolution that occurred at this time that smelled of reaction and also restoration. Of what, you might ask, was the restoration of? The answer is to that. The answer to the question of that is the entire canon of Europe, the entire Western canon of European art. This restoration and the remainders of that reaction were blown out of the water by the 1980s by other forces that we're not going to go into now, but also that have predictably weakened. So, as this once again has become even more evident, Tony's work now has become of great interest again, through no fault of his own, I might add, and especially to me, as we've had an identical background in terms of our training. So I turn now to Anthony Santuoso, who's sitting beside me, and I'd like to ask Anthony if he could tell us a bit about his background and his ideas.
Well, Don and Corinne, it's a pleasure to be here. I feel very flattered that you, in fact, invited me to talk about myself. And basically, I'm a painter. I've been working at this business for 63 years. I'm almost 80 years old now, and I've been doing this since I got out of high school. And it's a way of life which I chose purposely because I loved painting and I love the entire process, and be honest with you, it's kept me alive all these many years.
Can you describe your process?
My process? Well, basically what happens is I get an image idea. It could come from anywhere. It could come from a movie, it could come from reading, it could come from conversation. But something clicks in my head where I get an image and I think to myself, I'd like to see that. I'd like to talk about that particular subject. And then I try to find ways to make it a powerful presentation, fitting everything into the form of painting, what painting is, which is a very particular thing. It's not photography, it's not anything else. It's painting, it's a painting, it's a painting. And I try to make my pictures as powerful as possible by adhering to the very nature of what painting is, which is, as I said, it's a very specific thing. It's not photography. It's what you do is actually you take the three-dimensional world that we all live in and then translate it into a two-dimensional presence, because that's the nature of painting. It is two-dimensional and flat, and you got to figure out how to get your idea onto that surface and make it as powerful as possible. And I'm very interested in content. I like to talk a lot. I'm very interested in ideas. And I try to find an image that talks about what I'd like to make a statement about. So like I said, it could come from anywhere. It could come from a movie, it could come from a conversation, it could come from reading, it could come from dreams. Very often does come from dreams. And so you got this, this kind of amorphous thing, which then you're trying to give shape to. You try to give it some real presence as a painting. And work it to the point where it is a powerful presence as a painting. Basically, what happens to give it, I talk about this all the time. People don't often understand what I mean. Basically, I feel like I have an expressive imperative of some sort, something I'd like to talk about, something that has meaning to me, and I want to make a statement about that particular thing. So from that point on, I tried to develop what artists call plastic equivalence, meaning how many parts, how big, how small, where are they on the surface, how do they move across the surface, and plastic equivalence means what kind of shapes, what's the palette, how do these things all fit together on this rectangle. You're working within a rectangle most of the time, and try to get it to feel like it's a complete world and not just a piece of the world.
Maybe we could see some of your work, actually.
I'd love to.
Really great pleasure for the audience. Could you flash some of paintings? This is a painting of what seems to be a palace. It's beautiful color. Could you go talk a little bit about this work?
Well, like I said, it comes from, it's probably about 10 years old, actually, but basically this is an image that came out of reading. There's a book, if you want to call it a book. It's actually a verbal communication translated into a book, and it's called the Lotus Sutra. And it's a Buddhist image, and basically what it is it's a picture of the real potential of any given human being. And in the story itself, what happens is these searchers are all sitting around trying to figure out what the Buddha is saying, and this is one of the images he gives them, and it's supposed to indicate the real potential of human beings. And
when was this made?
It's about 10 years old. If you look at it, you see this kind of relates to what is that graphic image of a I can't remember. I don't know if you know what oh God, I can't remember anything anymore. It's kind of like a simple form. Obviously, it raises. It's called the Treasure Tower because that's what it's called in the book. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's an expression of the potential of human beings.
It's an imaginary structure, in fact.
Yeah, no, everything I do is imaginary. I don't use photographs. I don't look at things when I paint. I start from zero, fundamentally.
Do you make drawings?
I make drawings beforehand, yes. I make not very complicated drawings, usually ballpoint pen drawings. And that gives me an idea about how it's going to work on the surface. I mean, this thing is pretty much on center. And
do you make color sketches as well? Or,
yeah, once in a while, but not very often, because I like to work things out on the canvas. I like to have it happen as an original thing. If I made a bunch of color drawings, then I would be just translating them into the painting. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have the painting come out of the atmosphere. So
let's try another painting if we can.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Oh, this is a fascinating. Is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a young man. Yeah. Beautiful color, Tony.
Yeah,
reds and blues. Beautiful.
This is part of a triptych, actually.
Yeah.
And there's a triptych. There's 3 paintings. The first one is about emotional things. It's called Wish, which we don't have here now. The second one is about thinking about things. That's entitled Intention. And this one is about willpower and action. And I hate to keep giving credit to other people, but it all came out of Rudolf Steiner. I don't know if you know who Rudolf Steiner is. So that's where these images came from. I spent a lot of time studying kind of esoteric things, including Rudolf Steiner, Gurdjieff, Buddhism.
He founded a school in New York, I believe.
Yeah, he founded the world's largest private school, actually. He developed homeopathic medicine. So like I said, it went from feelings to thinking to action.
In what way does I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm just so fascinated, but in what way does this relate to his ideas, or expresses his ideas?
Well, fundamentally what happens in life experiences, when something happens, the first thing you do is have a feeling or a responsive feeling to it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, you got a feeling, and it's kind of like a wish. That's the title of the first painting. And then you think about it. So you got this, it sort of describes how I make my paintings. I have a thing I want to do. I wish I could see it. I want to see it. So then I think about it. And the second picture, like I said, is about thinking and
Is this the first one
intentions.
or the second one?
That's the last one.
Oh, that was the last one.
That's the last of the three. And the third one is about taking action. And, you know, the child in there, and it's a little girl because I wanted to have female elements as well as male elements.
There's
the
a
lion,
snake and a lion as
yeah,
well.
the lion is about bravery and fearlessness. The snake, I mean, the snake, it turns up in a lot of my paintings, and basically it's about thinking for yourself, kind of like when people got thrown out of the Garden of Eden and you had to fend for yourself. So you think for yourself, and it's a kind of, you can see the snake is kind of whispering in his ear.
Yes,
And,
I do, yeah. And the birds,
yeah.
what are they doing?
The birds, those are actually long flying birds. I think I forget what they call them. They fly over the ocean long
We're gonna have a break
distances.
soon.
So it's, you know, it's a long process. It's not like something happens overnight. You got to work at it. And in the back is a parade. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Yeah, I
but
can.
In the back
on the
is a
lower,
parade.
lower left, yes, I
And
can.
so
yeah.
I didn't want this picture about action to be grim in any way, shape, or form. I wanted it to be a happy, powerful presence.
Yeah, the color is really gorgeous, actually, Anthony.
And well, you know, it's
got a
actually the reverse.
tremendous-
Instead of being blue, the sky, it's red.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah,
everything's kind of like reversed in that
yeah,
field.
yeah.
And like I said, the line is about bravery, and if you'll see, there's a tidal wave on one side and a volcano on the other, indicating two opposite things in some way. And it's actually, there have been a lot of paintings made of single standing figures, including Cezanne and many others. And this is my version of it. And most of you can see he's about to take a step with his right leg.
Yeah.
The left one is supporting his body. The right leg is about to go into action.
I think we're going to have to go to a break.
Really?
Yeah, short break, and then we'll come right back. Hi again. We're back with Tony and discussing his work, and which has been so far a pleasure. And maybe we could flash another one up as we're going here. Oh, wow, this is an incredible looking painting of what seems to be a giant in a prison cell of some sort, or a dungeon, surrounded by people who seem to be dancing around him. Am I correct in that?
Well, it's not a dungeon. Well, actually, what it is It's a painting of Paul George's dying. I did a lot of pictures of artists dying.
Yeah, we
and
have
they
to
got this
explain
thi-
who he was. Yeah.
Paul George's was a teacher of mine. He was a painter, an interesting painter. And like I said, I did a lot of pictures because I had a lot of friends who passed away. I thought they were all interesting people, and he was one of them. But to round it up, I got to tell you, I think of myself as a painter, and to me, all painting is in some way abstract. I think of myself as an image manipulator, an image finder, an image manipulator, and a storyteller. There's almost always a story behind what I do. If you look at it, you wonder what it's about because there's a story behind it.
What would be the difference between illustration and what you do?
Well, an illustration is basically trying to, its emphasis is put on the image and the content, where a painting is a little different in that it has to deal with the nature of painting, what painting actually is. And so the dominant thing is about the form and not about the subject so much, but about the form and what a painting is. And as far as the stories go, they're not a narrative with beginning and an end. They're more like a poem, which tries to put together the past, present, and the future all at the same time. And in the end, I intend to communicate something that is not directly pictured. And meaning, as a friend of mine said, everything you do has meaning. I said, yeah, well, that's the idea. That's the purpose of making these pictures, to have some reason to exist. It's, what's this mean? People must say, what does this mean? And the giant figure, because I did all 6 or 7 of these paintings, and all the dying figures are oversized. And that came actually from a novel I read by Rainer Maria Rilke, called The Death of Lord Briggs, where this guy is dying and people come and see him, and he gets bigger and bigger and bigger until he fills up the whole room.
Okay, we'll go to the next painting. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is another incredibly interesting image. A man in a white suit with sunglasses, very serious, being offered a skull. Could you tell us about this?
Well, it comes from Faust. It's Mephistopheles.
Of course.
Mephistopheles. Faust is very depressed and says, if anybody can give me an idea about why I should continue to live, I'll go for that. And then this character, Mephistopheles, shows up. You can read about him in Goethe's story. And he basically bamboozles him. But so the figure, the guy is asking about life and death. That's what the skull is. It's like, why is this life worth living? And Mephistopheles takes him on a trip around doing this, that, and the other thing, trying to show him all kinds of reasons to live. But it turns out he's bamboozling him. And in the end, he dies anyway. So, like I said, I try to arrive at communicating something which is in some way not directly communicated. And I think of that as the meaning. And as what does this mean? Without a meaning, I don't see any reason for it to exist. And I try to communicate something which is not directly pictured. In this case, it was about death.
Love the relationship.
It's awful, but I did a lot of paintings in the last 10 years about death, one way or the other. And this isn't just another version of it. Actually, it's taken from a Delacroix painting, but it's completely altered. But Delacroix did a painting of Faust visiting Mephistopheles visiting Faust in his studio. It's a horizontal painting. Mine is vertical, and you see his foot is on a drawing of the guy. It's a self-portrait on the bottom.
Yeah, let's see another one.
Sure.
Just because we have a limited amount of time and want to see as many paintings of yours as possible.
Well, this is a little bit older painting. It's not about death. It's about a guy trying to keep his life together. Balance all the different elements in his life, including problems and things in the house I live in. And it's just about trying to balance all these things in your life and keep them upright. So I kind of like this picture. I like the tower, and I like the way the guy's arms are sort of, in control of the situation. I don't know how much you can see that. But he's trying to balance all these different things in his life.
Could you tell the audience and myself who your greatest influences were, who you are influenced by, and who you look at? And maybe we could flash another painting on the screen while you're doing that.
Sure. I have a lot of I have a lot of influences because I had a lot of teachers, to be honest with you, including Paul Georges, Alex Kax, everything from Nick. I studied with all kinds of people. Nicholas Krushnik, who was a kind of abstract painter, John Schuler, who was an abstract painter, Alex Katz. So I had a lot of, I think it's better to have a lot of choices, and I had a lot of choices, and I chose to connect to people I thought really did what I wanted to do. So fundamentally, the truth of the matter is, as influential as those people were, I basically am part of a kind of traditional, like Don is himself, a traditional process of painting, and it goes all the way back to pre-Renaissance, up to Titian, all of Rembrandt. I mean, all these painters were quite different, one from the other, but they all had something that I loved, and I wanted to get to that same level. I didn't want to be just picturing things to look nice. I wanted to communicate something, like what I consider great painting. Like Goya is one of my favorite painters.
What do we have to say about this painting?
Well, this is a picture
Pretty
about
wild painting of
yeah,
guys wrestling.
yeah. I was looking for a way to picture struggle. Actually, a man struggling with himself,
sense,
and I was making drawings, but they all kept on looking like they were dancing. Then I took a walk down the block, and it was in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu studio right down the block from me, and I looked in the window, and I see these two guys on the floor all tied up in knots, and I thought, there it is. So I made 3 of these paintings, actually, and they're all about struggling with yourself. There's no bad guy, good guy. It's about confronting yourself.
They're on the edge of a precipice.
Yeah,
too,
they're going over the hill.
They're going over the hill too. That's
I
an
had
incredible
3 of them.
image.
I did 3 of them.
Powerful
yeah.
as hell.
And you can't tell whose limbs are who. You
No,
can't tell
no.
whose leg is
Yeah.
this, whose arm is that.
Yeah.
They're all tied in knots. But so that was that picture about. It's about struggling with myself. But I don't know what other people go through, but I know every day is a battle for me to stay sane, to say, you know, to have enough money to live. It's just a constant struggle. Life for me was a struggle. Look, I never had any real money to speak of. I never had well, I spent a lot of time as a teacher, but most of the time I was struggling with ideas.
Right.
And that's what this is. It's about struggling with myself.
Let's see another painting, if we can. Wow, this seems similar.
Yeah, well, that's another picture of, you know, well, in this case, it's 2 guys confronting one another.
Beautiful,
It's a boxing
brutal.
picture.
Oh, just beautiful,
I
Tony.
did 3 or 4 of these too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I like. First of all, I like the whole idea. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a boxer, but I really am amazed at people that will get in the ring and pound the hell out of each other. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I did, like I said, I did 3 or 4 of these, and it was just about where you know, how they fit into the surface, the 2 heads, the gloves, the bodies, how they displace
the violence
the
is so compressed.
It's very.
yeah.
You know, it's. You know, as I look at it, I think myself, oh my goodness, it's like really a battle going on here. I mean, I don't watch boxing much, but I know that when you get hit in the face, there's a thing called mirror neurons. You know what those are?
Doesn't sound very good.
When you see something happen, like somebody get punched in the face, you go, ah, because you have a kind of mirror neuron in your head, and you could, you know, you feel it just like it was really happening.
Yeah.
So that happens with all kinds of things these days. It's interesting, mirror neurons, brain activity.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in the mind.
Yeah.
You know, some of my pictures look philosophical. I hope they're all expressive.
Let's see another one while we're at.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, this is another.
Well, this is a whole different thing entirely. This actually came from this is the 7th of 6 pictures which are bound together in one unit. The other 6 are not there. But it was about, this is about selecting. This guy selecting one person out of all the other people who
Right.
as my friend says, are fornicating hordes. So it's like, you know, just selecting one person out.
So is the nude just stepping out of the one
she's
selected?
coming out, he's selecting her.
She's the one. So it's almost.
It actually came from a Freud book, because that was like, you have a process you go through in your mind, which is like, you know, you select from all these different things that are going on in life. And that was part of your brain activity.
It's also a very famous classical myth.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. With three women. I forget the name. Which myth?
Three
it is.
Graces.
Three Graces. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
forget
about
the myth because
selection.
I'm getting
And
old.
it actually came from a postcard I had of a kind of pre-Renaissance.
Judgment of Paris. Sorry.
Oh, Judgment of Paris.
Judgment of Paris. Yeah.
It came from a picture I had, a reproduction I had of it was prior to the Renaissance, early on, and it was about the days of the week is what it was. So
I see.
actually, that's not Monday, that's Tuesday. I did Monday, which is about selection. Tuesday, which about combinations. Tuesday's about selection.
Yeah.
Wednesday is about, you know, and it's just through the whole process. So it's like a calendar of picture making. This is what it takes to make a picture.
Let's see another one. Here we go. Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Richie Euler wanted to buy this picture.
Yeah.
It's well, this is a painting I made because of a conversation I overheard. I heard people, I was in a store and I heard these two people talking about an Italian movie where these people chased the devil up a tree.
Oh.
And I just converted, I made the people children because it's about hope and how youth could possibly deal with anger and violence, because that, you know, I had these three characters. I don't know if you know who Aramon is.
Actually, it's beyond me. I do not know. I do not know.
Aramon is from ancient,
Yeah.
what I gotta get the Norwegian, ancient.
Norse mythology.
Yeah, there's Aramon, which is like a destructive element. There was this Lucifer, which is about self-involvement. And there's greed. So I did three paintings of these children. This guy's up a tree, one was in a hole, and one is up in a corner. But this was the very first one, and they got sticks and stones, as you can see.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
like
so-
children. Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's a hope for the future. I hope that the young people can do something about this crazy world we live in. And anger, that's war up in a tree. That's war, anger.
Yeah. We both
hatred.
We both hope that young people could.
I hope they do. I
Make
hope
a
they
different
step
world,
up
make
to
a
the
better.
plate.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to say thank you very much.
Oh,
Anthony.
thank you.
It was a pleasure. The time is always too short to see,
Yes, that
see your
went by
wonderful
pretty
work.
quickly.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you everybody out there.
My pleasure.
I'ma show you how to party.